It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Golf Guru Show. I'm your host, Jason Sutton, aka The Guru. On this episode, my guest is European Tour player Oliver Wilson. You can reach out to Ollie at Oliver_Wilson on Instagram and Twitter. Oliver has had what I would consider an incredible career thus far, and we basically go through a lot of his ups and downs, which I think can be very beneficial to a lot of you listeners out there. And we talk about a variety of topics, such as him being on the Walker Cup team, and then shortly after there, rebuilding his golf swing, and then gaining European Tour status through the Challenge Tour, where he rose to being ranked 33rd in the World Golf Rankings and making the 2008 Ryder Cup team, which we go into depth as well, which is a very interesting part of this conversation. And then shortly after, a couple of years, losing his card and nearly quitting the game, like literally getting ready to give it up, and then winning out of nowhere the 2014 Dunhill Links by a shot over Tommy Fleetwood and Rory McIlroy. And to now, through the help of my friend and his coach now, James Ridyard, finding his game and finishing top 5 in South Africa and winning a couple of Challenge Tour events last year, and starting to sort of breathe some life into his game again and his career. And this guy is just such a great guy. I've just gotten to know him the last couple of days and having some interesting talks, and I'm just rooting like heck for this guy because he's such a good dude. And I thank him so much for sharing his story and being so honest and forthright with his struggles that I'm sure a lot of you tour players out there have gone through, but you know, coming out on the other side and starting to see the light is a life lesson in itself of perseverance and, you know, heart, and in really just digging deep and finding what you're all about. So I think you're gonna find that this comes through in this really unbelievable conversation that I hope you're going to enjoy as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. So without further delay, let's get to this talk with Oliver Wilson. All right, Oliver, part 2. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get through your career because I think it's a very interesting story, and definitely a story of perseverance, and a guy that obviously he's been through some ups and downs. But give us a brief sort of intro of you as a kid, and you know what you were into as a child, golf wise, and then I think other sports were involved as well.
Yeah, so sort of back to when I was roughly 6, 7, I guess. I football, soccer was my sport, and I was going to be a professional footballer at that stage. And I'd also been skiing quite regularly, annually at that stage as well. So skiing was a big love as well, but football was definitely the number one until I had a skiing accident when I was about 10, just at the same time I'd started playing golf with my dad. We took it up at the same time around my 10th birthday. Had a skiing accident, somebody hit me and twisted my knee. And I was told at the time that was it, no more football, riding a bike, running, that kind of thing. Those sports were done. The physio knowledge wasn't that great at that time. That was out in Bulgaria. So it was just like pushed me into golf. And golf was going to be the one thing that I would do, and kind of just went all in, started playing golf. I still wanted to kind of be a ski instructor in the winter and maybe a golf pro in the summer, but that was sort of down the line once my knee was maybe okay. But just went all in with the golf, and I was very fortunate. Had good junior organiser at the time, Ian Elric at Oakmere Park, who kind of guided me and gave me some information and what to do and how to get to the next level. So I started playing club stuff, then county stuff, and then slowly broke into the England under-14s. And at that point, it was just a natural progression, really. Like England under-14s, then made it into the England under-16s, and started to think that golf could be something to pursue. And yeah, just kept on going, really. And then I think around that time, maybe when I was about 16, I was offered a place at Augusta State University.
Right.
So Jim Kelson was the coach then before he moved to Tennessee. And he came over to, I think, the Caris, which is the England under-18s, and offered me a place. And I was just not interested at the time. You know, I was 16, couldn't even comprehend moving country to go and play golf and go back to school or go to school. So I just said, no, I'm not for me, really, and carried on playing England international stuff and did pretty well. And then when I was 18, I stopped playing the England juniors and moved into the men's squad, but wasn't really doing that well, kind of treading water. I was working with my coach, David Ridley, who was massively influential in my junior career and getting me on track. And became was doing full-time amateur golf, basically. So I was practicing, working in a bar, working in Morrison's, a supermarket.
Oh, really? I didn't know
whilst
that.
playing amateur golf at that time. So it was kind of a cool situation. Did a little bit of not bricklaying, but labouring for my dad as well on the building site. But yeah, I wasn't really going anywhere. I started to stagnate a little bit. Was just working hard on my golf, but didn't have much competition daily. Just practicing most of the time. The weather wasn't that great in England.
Sure.
So 2 years later, I was I was about 18, and a friend of mine got recruited to go to Augusta State, and he came over, went through passport and immigration, and hadn't got his visa in check, and was sent home and banned from the country.
Wow.
for a short period. So he called me up when he got home and said, look, there's a spot available if you want it. And at that time, you know, when I was 16, it just wasn't the right time in my life. But when at 18, doing what I was doing, it was perfect. And it was something I just jumped all over. So literally, I think maybe like 3 months later, I was out end of December in 2000. I was coming out to Augusta State University to start this new journey. In my mind, I thought I was practicing at Augusta National every day before I flew out.
That's probably what they tell you when they recruit you, right?
Well, they didn't say that, but they didn't really give me a whole lot of information. So I turned up the first day. My luggage didn't arrive, so I turned up had jeans on. My golf clubs did come. Fortunately, my golf shoes were in my golf bag, so I walked out onto Forest Hills
with jeans on?
With jeans on, golf shoes, and my golf bag. And I was like, what in the world is this place? Like, I thought I was going to be at Augusta National. And like, no, we only play it once a year. I was like, oh no, I've made the worst decision ever. This is disastrous. But like shortly, you know, a week later, it was like the best thing I ever did. And,
Augusta Country Club's not bad.
Augusta Country Club's lovely. And Forest Hills was actually turned out to be a fantastic place to not grow up, but, you know, be there with the team. Such a competitive environment in college over here in the US that, you know, you're playing against 10, 12 other guys every day, whether it be on the range doing driving competitions, wedge competitions, short game, putting. You're just competing every day. And at the time, you know, technical advice wasn't the best. We spent a lot of time working on my swing, trying to improve it, but didn't really get that far with it. But what we did get was the competitive element, the short game, the wedge skills, putting, all that. The real playing golf really, really developed in college with JC was my coach there. And you know, a lot of guys ask about coming to college over here, and I always tell them it was the best thing I ever did, but you do have to get a little bit lucky with the coaches and the teammates. And for me, I couldn't have been any luckier. I had JC as a coach, and then Josh Gregory did the last year, and my teammates were fantastic as well. So I had the time,
you guys had a really good
life.
Team too, right? You were competing for national championships at that point.
We were Division 1, and we were ranked inside the top 25, 30 all the time. And then towards the end of my career, we were ranked number 1 in college. So it was cool. It was a cool time. Just had a lot of fun. And being in Augusta as well, you know, golf meant more than probably any other college. So it was just a lot of fun, and by far the best thing I've ever done.
And at the end of your college career, you started winning a few tournaments and started to have some aspirations. But talk a little bit about your preparation, because it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so my college career was it did well. I qualified for the team straight away and did nicely. Jamie Elson was number 1 on the team. I was sort of number 2 and number 3 for the first couple of years. And then I think it was my junior year, I went home to play in some amateur stuff through the summer and just wasn't enjoying golf. The frustration, I think, of golf and my swing had got the better of me. And I remember shooting like 80, maybe 82 in the Welsh Open or something. Walked off the course, jumped in my car, drove 4 hours home and said to Mum and Dad, all right, I'm done, not enjoying this. I'm going to go back to Augusta, get my degree, have fun, and we'll figure something out. And they were really supportive, and just said, okay, that's fine. So I went back, I started going out, enjoying myself a lot. And in fact, it probably wasn't my junior year, maybe it was my sophomore year, because I met my wife that year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, shall we say.
So there was a reason for that.
Yeah, so I was a bit sidetracked, and I started playing well. I won 3 tournaments in the fall out of nowhere, ranked number 1 in the country, and I'd been literally practicing less, sleeping in practices, just sneaking off to get some naps. Just not
after the night before.
Yeah, like I was worn out from partying, not anything else. But,
Right.
It was just a fun time, and I started playing really good golf, and that carried on for that junior year, and then into my senior year. Kind of got a little bit more serious and concentrated, but I found a good balance.
Right.
And played well, so finished really well, managed to get in the Walker Cup.
Yeah, Walker
to finish,
Cup team.
and then turned pro
fantastic.
straight after that. So that was 2000 to sort of 2003 in the summer. Walker Cup end of 2003 and turned pro right at the end of 2004. So it was a good time. So shortly after that, I played the Walker Cup in Ganton, and we won. We had a great week. I went out number 1 in the singles and beat Bill Haas, 1 up on the last hole, which is something I'll always remember as well. So actually Bill's brother Jay was on my team, so I knew Bill and Jay quite well in the Haas family. So it was kind of cool that I was against Bill. And so that was on the Sunday, flew out Monday morning to the US, straight to New York to see Mitchell Spearman.
Your
who was
first serious coach,
right?
right?
So my first coach as a pro.
Right.
And we just ripped my swing apart. It was something that I needed to do. I was excited about doing, and I knew at that point I'd done well, but I just never felt like I could get really where I wanted to. I felt like I could get onto the European tour, but probably not keep my card very much. Probably become just not even a journeyman pro. I just didn't think I was good enough.
Just your ball striking always
Yeah.
sort of held you back a little bit, you thought?
My ball striking was very poor at the time, but my short game and everything else was good, so I knew I could do it, but I needed some work, so I went to see Mitchell Spearman. I'll always remember that. The first sort of half hour we hit balls, he videoed it, didn't say much. Then we went up and got in his swing room, looked at it on the big screen, and he was blown away by the fact that I'd just been at the Walker Cup and just had such a good college career with that swing. It was horrific. I actually posted a couple of videos a couple of years ago from back then.
I would love to see that.
I mean, they were bad, like really bad, like hands way up high, well, on the backswing.
Steep going back.
Steep and shut. The right arm was locked straight. High arms, but then there was no shallowing move, so it just came back down on a similar kind of line, and I'd jump out of the way and hold it off and cut across it and hit this big pull cut.
I was going to say, you must have just perfected that pull cut.
Yeah, like a flat pull cut. Like 3-iron wasn't really an option.
Not much loft left.
No, it was going in hard. So yeah, it was good though. You know, I knew it was what I needed to do. Mitchell laid out a plan for what we needed to do, where we needed to get it to, and I was fully on board. Like it was just, this is what needs to happen. So I spent that entire winter just hitting balls, trying to shallow it out and get it a little bit more in sync. And yeah, I went out and played a few times during that time on my own, and ended up coming in after 2 or 3 holes just because I couldn't play. I lost a few balls and just realised I still needed to be on the range.
More work.
Yeah, so kept doing it, but I was, like I said, I fully embraced it and was really enjoying that journey.
That's such a big lesson for the average golfers out there, that you think you're working at it 8-10 hours a day, and you're a world-class athlete, and these average golfers think they should get it in an hour.
Well, I wouldn't call myself an athlete back then. Maybe now, but not back then. But yeah, it was a lot of effort went in, and it took a while. Probably took 6 months before I could start to play half decent. Played a few mini tour events, didn't do any good, and then got some invites on the Challenge Tour early on, and finished top 20 in all three. But I think I led 2 of them at various points.
So that started clicking in about that time, right?
Yeah, so the competitive element, sort of trying to find that balance between technical and performance and, and playing, and that all sort of fell into place, and then played the whole season on the Challenge Tour, kind of finding that balance, still working on my game and my swing, but playing a lot more, and you know, the whole excitement of the first year, travelling around with your mates and competing and earning some money. I was very fortunate that I signed with Callaway at the time, so I've been with them all my career, but you know, at the time it helped me just to kind of, you know, you're earning money, but it costs a lot of money as well, so it took a little bit of the pressure off as well.
Yeah, that's a nice little perk.
So yeah, that just worked well, and then managed to cling on and get 15th card at the end of the season,
last
which was
spot.
It was a stressful last few weeks.
Do you remember that last tournament where you knew you were on the bubble?
Yeah, so heading in, I think I was 15th, and I remember I got my manager, who was my best mate and my college teammate, Rob Duck. So he came over and he caddied for me, and I played well, but I was so stressed. Like the pressure was like in my head. This thing was like it was life and death. And I remember actually, I think with maybe 4 or 5 holes to go, so it was looking pretty good. I kind of was gonna get the job done, but Rob had a flight to get home, and he had to leave with like 5 holes to go.
Oh gosh!
I'm like, no, there's no way you can leave me at this point. He's like, you're fine, you've got this. So I ended up, I think I arranged that there was a taxi waiting for him as I walked off the 18th, checked him in online and everything, and I made him stay. I think walking off the 18th, I think I teed off on 18 and he walked off the side of the fairway to get in his taxi and shot off, and I holed out and finished. It was a tight one, but it was a cool week. I remember the week quite well, but yeah, I was so stressed. I have relaxed a little bit since then, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, because that's why I think, you know, your career is so interesting, and it's a great testament to you as a person, and as a sort of a gritty, as James, your coach James Ridder now he said you're just a guy that just gets it done. You're a real player, and that's a huge compliment, I think, coming from a James. So talk about, so now you're starting to really improve, right? So you're moving up the ranks. You're on the European tour every year. Starts to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
You're lots of runner-up finishes.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, exciting first year on tour. Flew out to Hong Kong, I think, and shot maybe like 80, 82 or something the first week. Missed the cut. I was like, oh dear, this is going to be interesting. I think I did like a 6-week spell of around South Africa, Asia, Australia. And I think I got in the mix in New Zealand. I was leading, maybe going into the last round, finished 7th, and that kind of really gave me a little bit of belief that, you know, that I can do this.
You can be out there.
Yeah, so I worked hard and ground it out, and it wasn't pretty, but
was Mitchell traveling with you at this point?
No, so Mitchell was coming over probably every 2 to 3 months at some of the bigger events. Which in hindsight probably wasn't the best thing, because we'd end up doing work at those events. And
that's another question I want.
Yeah, so
like,
it
much
wasn't.
Do you actually do?
We did, we were doing a lot on sending videos backwards and forwards and communicating, but he came over, probably 2 or 3 times a year to do some work. I'd go over a couple of times to see him. So it was not the best balance in that sense, but I carried on moving forward, managed to keep my card, got in the mix in, I think it was, I can't remember if it was 04, 05, maybe it was end of 05. I got in the mix. I was leading in the Volvo China Open with 2 holes to go.
As 06.
06 that was, yeah.
Paul Casey.
So I duffed a 9-iron into the 17th and didn't get it up and down, like an easy hole, and then parred the par 5 the last, and then just hit terrible shot into the playoff and lost the playoff to Paul. Just gave him the tournament.
Oh.
And the frustration from that was, it was right there within my grasp. I didn't even have to do anything the last 2 holes, just par. And again, that was sort of the first thing where, first experience of being in the mix on tour and my golf swing letting me down. Over those next 3, 4, 5 years, it happened quite a lot. I was getting in the mix, but I couldn't close tournaments out. I felt like I was hanging on. Those last 9 holes, I was always hanging on. I could hold the putts, I could get it up and down, I knew what to do. I was sort of comfortable in those situations, but my swing didn't hold up. I couldn't hit the shots. I couldn't hit like longer irons and get them on the green under that kind of in that kind of position. So
just wears on you after a while, right? I mean, that's probably just over the years.
Yeah, it's stressful. But I had the confidence to know I could get the job done, but it was always my golf swing that was just holding me back a little bit, which is why kind of, it's the catalyst for what happened in my career.
Right.
And looking back now, the golf swing actually got to a point, certainly 07, 08, where it didn't need a whole lot of change. But I didn't know that at the time. It was just the pivot and the sequence that was slightly out. And if I could have worked on that but kept the rest, then it'd have been great.
So if you'd have known your golf swing a little better, that's the lesson learned there, right? That you probably wouldn't have messed with it afterwards.
Certainly
after the
not.
Ryder
No,
Cup.
there was a lot of good stuff in it. Don't get me wrong. But the pivot and the sequence, arguably 2 of the most important, were not right. So they were, I was always relying on timing. And down the stretch, it's not really what you want to be relying on.
So you keep progressing, and then you had, like you said, you got all the way up to 33rd in the world. You make the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
So every year, all my goal was ever to improve, just to keep improving, whatever area it is, just to keep improving. But at the end of the year, it was always, did I improve my ranking? And from 03, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I improved every year.
Yep.
Got up to, I think, 33rd in the world, top 10 in the order of merit on the European Tour. So things were going well. But again, like, it was just my golf swing was sort of holding me back. So I guess just skipping back, you said about the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup was in 08. I had a couple of, I had 3 seconds in a row early on in the season, finished second at Wentworth, lost to Miguel, which really hurt. That's the hardest one, right? That's the one that hurt the most. I was in tears after the round because it was right there again. I had a 1-shot lead. In fact, I'll never forget, I was on the 17th tee, and I don't really watch leaderboards. I knew the situation, don't get me wrong. I knew I was right there, but I thought I was tied. And I get on 17 and I'm not looking at leaderboards, and I've taken my backswing, my practice swing, and as I get halfway back, I just kind of look back, and there's a leaderboard behind the 17th green, and I see my name at the top of the board with a 1-shot lead, and I was like, oh shit. It just took me out of the moment, and I hit a decent tee shot, but I just leaked it down the right, and it went right behind this tree, which 17 it went with. If for people that know, it's a tough tee shot. All cambers away to the trees on the right and out of bounds left, so you're not going left. So anyway, I bogeyed 17 and then parred the last. I lipped out twice in the last hole of regular play, and then 2 playoff holes from the same putt.
Oh my.
And Miguel managed to birdie at the 3rd attempt, I think, or the 2nd attempt, to win, and it really hurt. And that was, it was a fantastic week because it got me in the mix of the Ryder Cup, but it's a week that hurts the most out of any loss, really. Because
you had it, and then plus that would have changed your life, obviously.
Yeah,
that win.
It would have just, certainly when I look back, it would have been a 5-year exemption at the time, which would have been quite handy around the 2011 time.
Yes.
But yeah, and just to be BMW champion, it's a pretty big title. That's
huge,
and it certainly elevates you in the game. As opposed to being someone who's got 9 runners up. So it was a big week. But that got me into the Ryder Cup mix, and then I played well and went to Glen Eagles at the end of that year and played I played bad the first 2 days, but managed to have a really strong back 9 on the Friday to qualify to make the cut, which pretty much got me on the team. And then shot 2 good rounds on the weekend, finished around 10th. So that got me on the Ryder Cup team, which was I can't really say it was a dream come true because I don't think I ever dreamt that I could get to that. I always, like I said earlier, no, I didn't. And I think looking back as well, that kind of held me back. I knew I thought there was levels I could get to, but I surpassed them by just keep working in the areas, just keep working on each area game, trying to improve.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I've qualified for the Ryder Cup, going from somebody who thought I could only ever really become a journeyman pro on the European Tour. So at that point, it's like, wow, and you're invincible. So,
what do you do now, right?
Yeah, so I played the Ryder Cup. It was a pretty special week. Faldo was the captain. Obviously it was in the States at Valhalla, and we came up against a very strong US
one of the
team.
few ones that we've won in the last few years.
Yeah, with a very good captain.
Yeah.
Zinger did a fantastic job.
That was a legendary. That's the pod system story now that everybody's sort of trying to copy.
Yeah,
that he did a great job.
I think he did. He had the pod system. He built a team, but he communicated with every individual player really well. So everybody knew what was going on. Everyone was embraced in the team. On our side,
not quite as good, huh?
Not quite. There's some mistakes made. I think Nick would hold his hand up, but I think Nick was looking at it from his own point of view, where he was, former world number one. He didn't need communicating when he was on those teams. He knew he was going to be playing.
Right.
So whether you're told whether you're playing or not is irrelevant, really, through his eyes, because he was always playing, and he was just going to get on with his job. And I think he thought everybody on the team was the same. And it's not the case.
Right. You got to know your players.
You got to know your players. You got to know what works for them, how they are during tournament weeks. You got to spend some time with them and learn. And he didn't have. I think he had DJ Spooney and his son as assistants, other than Jose Maria. And it's looking back now. You look at the Ryder Cup teams over this last decade, and there's a lot of people involved because there's so much ground to cover, and you need people. You need an impartial view, keeping an eye on every player. Because if you're a captain and you come and ask a player how you're playing in the Ryder Cup, well, they're not going to say I'm struggling, leave me out, unless they're really, really struggling.
Right.
Because everyone wants to play.
Sure.
So just the whole communication of it.
And he misread you a little bit, right? Tell that story.
I think he misread me.
How you prepare and how you practice.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. For me, certainly at that time, generally through tournament weeks, I would never prepare that well for the first few days. But by the time the tournament, or Thursday or Friday for the Ryder Cup, when that time comes, I'd be ready. And every professional golfer is different, how they prepare, how stressed they are leading into the week. Some people get really stressed, but that's what works for them. Some people are chilled. You got to understand your players and how that works for everyone, and everyone's different. So I don't think Nick really knew that, because he didn't really know probably half of the team that well. And I think that's where maybe a few of the mistakes were made that week.
And you're working with Pete Cowan at the time, right?
So I was working with Pete, and I was struggling to begin the week, but me and my caddy sort of went off and did some work and found a feeling that worked, and started playing really well. Practiced Thursday, played really well. But then was left out, which I was... Because
his perception was that those first few days that you were struggling, and that's sort of how you were going to bring...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he didn't communicate. We only spoke a couple of times during the whole week, really.
Yeah. If he just would have asked you, you probably would have said, hey, I'm okay, I'm good.
Yeah, but we never really had that. So really, after that, those first few days, I kind of got the impression I wasn't going to be playing. And then Henrik, who also worked with Pete, so I knew him very well, he went and had a word with Nick and said, right, I'm playing with Ollie. That was after the Friday, so Saturday morning we were going to go and play. So he told me that, so I'm pumped. Can't wait. I've got Henrik by my side. So you feel pretty big when you've got someone like that as your partner. You feel pretty strong. And then we were 4 down after 6. So he was like, well, this isn't going to plan.
That's what you said to him walking in the fairway, right? You're like, this is not exactly what we had.
Is this what you were thinking when you went to Nick and asked for us to play? So anyway, we were walking down this, I think it was the 6th hole, and or 7th hole, the par 5. And we sort of formulated a game plan, what we'd do, and to basically just refresh it in our heads. And we played fantastic. We played really well. I managed to close it out on 17. I managed to sneak a little 20-footer in to close the match out. So that for me, that's one of my highlights, if not the biggest highlight of my career. It was a really special time playing against Mickelson and Anthony Kim. So it was a cool time. And then, sort of back to one of the communication things. Yeah. We were 2 up or 1 up. We were 1 up, with 2 to go, and Henrik gets the nod on the back of the green that he's going out in the afternoon, but I'm on the green putting, but I see this whole thing playing out. So Henrik and Fanny say they're playing. So I'm assuming, I'm going back out. So I ask, but they're like, well, don't really know. So we're still trying to close our match out with 2 holes to go, and I don't know if I'm playing. Henrik's playing, doesn't know when or what.
Oh,
so anyway, we go out and we obviously close it out on 17, but then I found out afterwards I wasn't playing, so I was gutted because I played really well.
Yeah.
So that was it, kind of. I knew it was singles for me was the next one, which it's fine. And because there's always going to be players that don't play that many games, and for me, I was probably
you're a rookie.
I was a rookie.
Yeah.
There was the team was full of experience, so
sure,
I get that. But I was playing well, and I wanted to go out again, and that's just the way it is.
Now looking back, he should have played you.
Well, yeah, who knows about that? But it was still an amazing week. Even being on a losing team, it was still an amazing experience for me, and there's things I regret within that team, within that week. But it was still, an amazing experience. I'd love to be on a winning team. It would be a very, very cool thing to experience and be part of.
Well, you're not done yet.
No, that's the goal. I to say, I keep wanting to keep improving. If I can keep improving, and you don't know where you can get to. I've still got plenty of time left.
Absolutely.
So fingers crossed I can make another team.
All right. So before we get to where you're at now, which is in a much better place, after that, things start to go a little bit sideways, right?
Yeah,
so talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned that before the podcast that you just started maybe searching a little too much. I love the quote I always use with my guys is don't let best get in the way of better, right? It's like don't chase perfection when, just like you said earlier, you just had the goal of getting 1% better, a little bit better every year. And I think speak to that a little bit and how that sort of started to spiral out of control, I guess.
Yeah, so I felt like in 08 I was playing well. Obviously, the big picture, everything was going well, and you're invincible at that stage.
In 09 you actually had a great year too. So
09 was my best year, and I remember actually an interview after the 08 Ryder Cup, which I regret massively now. But I said, somebody said, what do you think you can go on to achieve? And I was like, well, I've worked out I can play 9 Ryder Cups. And genuinely in my head, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, well, I've just played one. I'm only going to keep getting better. Like, why wouldn't I?
Why not?
And I fully believed it. And then I just missed out on, I was not a million miles away from making the next Ryder Cup team. And then I obviously haven't been close since. And I think back to that comment, I'm like, I wish I could take that back. But, that's just I think that's just where I was. I was very focused, very confident, but there was still things that needed improving. So I knew how much I could improve, and I was already at that level.
Sure.
But unfortunately, I went to see Hugh Moore to start with in 09.
So we switched coaches again.
Coach. I felt that me and my caddy made the decision. We kept some stats and felt like my game, the things that were holding me back in my swing weren't improving, but the rest of it was great, and we felt like they needed a new direction. So I started seeing Hugh Moore, who had really helped me in 09, and I had my best year. And I think there was many things that I'd already had in my game, and to go with what Hugh gave me really helped. And I played well in the majors that year. Had few more runners up, some close calls, but played very consistent. I think I made a lot of cuts. My ball striking, my greens in reg was high, maybe somewhere like 75%, something like that.
That's good.
So it was going the right direction, but then sort of end of 09, 10, again, like I just felt like it wasn't enough. I wasn't getting the not the results, but I wasn't getting the swing results and the ball striking results that I needed and I really wanted. So again, that's when it really started to, or my mind started to wander, and I started to investigate and try and learn what was holding it back and seek out more advice. And it got to the point I was so frustrated with not winning. At that point, I had 9 seconds. I played a Ryder Cup. I was top 50 in the world for 2.5 years, but I hadn't won. And it was starting to really annoy me because it was what I was known for, and I hated that.
You think that, looking back, is it maybe a lack of patience? Where do you think if you would have just kept going, you'd have been okay?
I mean, in hindsight,
yeah. I mean,
absolutely,
obviously it's easy to say now,
if I could have just, I think.
But there's a lesson to be learned here, obviously, right? So as you go and start searching, what what avenues did
well, I think
you start to go down?
To start with, the first 6-7 years of my career, or the first 6 years of my career, every year I improved. It was quite a fast uphill rise.
Right.
But I had a very close team. There was not a lot going on. It was very simple what I was working on, and there was no real wondering. I almost didn't need to go for a lesson.
Not a lot of excess noise.
Yeah, I knew what the lesson was going to be. So when I was on my own, it was always the same stuff. But then 2010, 2011 onwards, more, I started to learn. I started to investigate. I guess, social media as well. Suddenly I've got access to all these coaches online.
Sure. Yeah.
They've all got these different theories. I'm like, well, maybe that could work. That could work. Stop playing.
All of a sudden, you're a 15 handicapper.
Suddenly my mind is like open to all these things, all these areas. I've gone down the mental route, which really messed me up, actually.
Talk about that.
Well, I won't mention any names, but
yeah.
there was a few guys that I worked with. There was one guy in particular that is a very well-renowned psychologist, who's done a fantastic job with many people, but it was very different to how I thought. And I sort of played golf in a bit of a stressed state, and he was trying to get me out of this. And I ended up playing a year, I think it was 2011. I ended up playing this year of golf where, you made bogey, that's no big deal, it's only golf. And end of the round, shot 72, 73. Well, that's okay, it's just a round of golf. There's far more important things out there. And suddenly, after 3 months, I'm shooting level par, but I'm happy, walking off every round. And you don't make cuts
money.
Shooting level par, 1 overs.
Right.
And it just, it kind of,
wow.
Again, that was one aspect that really got in my head. And changing, it ended up being not just the mental side, but I ended up changing, like you said earlier, the stuff that was the good and the consistent. I ended up eroding some of that.
So you start changing the wrong pieces of your swing.
Instead, because I didn't have the knowledge to know what was really at the bottom of the root cause of my swing. So I went off on all these other tangents trying to get better. And that's when you really need a good team. You need a close-knit team to just give you a little clip around the ear and push you back on track and say, look, we talked about this. This is the plan. Let's just keep doing this. And there's times when you need to explore and maybe bring someone else in and get some extra knowledge. But I feel like it kind of needs to be a bit of a team discussion, because when you have the right people in your team, they can, you have surround yourself with good people, and you probably won't go far wrong. And I opened my team up, and I was sort of exploring on my own and bringing these different things in.
I feel like that happens a lot on tour nowadays.
Yeah, I remember
it's out there. The information is out there, but for you as a player, you have to have that filter of discernment of what's going to work for you and what's not going to work. And I think that can be confusing.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems is, certainly for me, as you're on the rise, you trust your instinct really well. Your instinct gets you. Your instinct is what you make those decisions. Why you work with a certain person, who you bring into your team.
Sure, your gut
on the course. You're following your instinct. So your instinct is it. But then it's hard when things aren't quite going right, because you always think you're right.
Sure.
Which is why you need people
and you're
to
the player.
And I'm the boss.
Exactly right.
So it's all well and good having guys to go, I don't think you should do that, I don't think you should do that. But when you're so single-minded and well, however you want to term it, it's hard to then have that knowledge to go, actually, I want to go down that path, but I don't think I probably shouldn't. Because I'm the kind of person who go, well, I'm going to go down it anyway, because I'm just going to explore and I'll be okay. But then you realise, actually, I probably shouldn't have done. But sometimes you need a bit of that. It's okay, so you can learn from those mistakes. But I certainly
let me stop you really quick, because this is kind of a funny moment. Like I said, I reached out to James yesterday after we met, and we were talking, and one of the things I said is, wow, Ollie really seems very coachable. And his response was, ask him if he was always coachable. So that kind of I think that's what you're describing now, is like you can be a little bit hard-headed, which again, you got to have some of that. So continue, but I thought that was funny, because way my first perception of you, because you were talking about your work you're doing and how confident you are now, and And it wasn't always that way, was it?
Well, yeah, maybe you should speak to my past coaches and ask those their points of view.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't, or don't tell me what they say anyway. But no, like I remember going to Singapore and I played a tournament in Vibram Five Fingers. You know the Vibram Five Finger shoes?
Yeah.
Like the gloves for your feet.
Oh, yeah.
I played a tournament in those shoes.
Oh, my.
I played with Thomas Bjorn, who found it hilarious. He was just sort of taking the piss out of me. But I got to this point where I was so frustrated with my golf and I couldn't figure out my pivot. It looked terrible. I had this high right hip in transition and I couldn't get to the bottom of it. And I knew when I swung barefoot that it improved. So I started to look at ground pressures, working with body track, learning about the tracers, trying to figure this out. And I didn't have the knowledge. And at that time...
Were you on your own at this time, or were you working
a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you start tinkering, so you get a little bit of knowledge, and which is not healthy. And that kind of technology it was only just coming out. And we didn't really know what a golfer should be doing.
Right.
So you kind of
I'm a body
experimenting.
track guy, so the evolution has been kind of interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. But it's really helped me at this stage of my career. But back then, I knew it was what I needed to be. That it was the right route to go down. I just didn't have the information where to go with it.
Yeah.
And so I played the tournament in them. I remember playing in the Czech Open in Prague. There was like 4 holes on the backside of the course that was out of the way, like separated a bit from the course, and I played barefoot. I actually took my shoes off and played.
Oh, wow. How did it go?
I played all right.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I can't remember who I was playing with at the time because it's quite a long time ago. But that's the frustration. It drove me to that point.
Just like 2011, 12, 13.
I'm not sure when that was in Czech. In Singapore, it was probably around that point, like 2010 maybe.
Yeah.
But I just got so frustrated with my swing. And now looking back, I understand that the pivot and basically the sequence was what was wrong. So positionally, it looked okay, but I could never get the positions I wanted because the sequence was wrong.
Was off.
So I guess now I kind of my thing is now that I fully understand that movement creates the positions, and it's only been this last year where I understood that and then seen results from trying to find this movement, and suddenly the club starts doing kind of what you want to.
Sure.
And I've never experienced that before, so it's like sort of a light bulb moment, and it's really helped this year for me to be able to play and get things going a little bit more the right direction. But the body track, obviously with TrackMan, GC Quad, 4D, all the technology that's out there I've used because I genuinely believe you can get so much better using it. But I think the last few years has only been when we're really getting the right information to be able to fully use it. And I think that's why you're seeing so many young guys with great swings now, because you don't waste all that time trying to search for what you need to do. The answers are there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was not the right timing for me. So it's been a bit of a up and down time.
A little bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So you're struggling 2011, 12, 13. You end up winning the Dunhill in 2014. So was that part of you coming out of it, or was it you just gutting it out and just figuring out how...
it would be wrong to say not coming out of it. So in 2014, beginning of 2014, I was done. I mean, I've never been in a point in my life where I was like that. I was playing tournaments on Challenge Tour. I didn't have a team. I was out on my own, no caddy, carry my own bag.
Wow.
Not really a coach at the time. Because the few years before that, I'd kind of gone from a few coaches and I'd kind of lost those relationships. So it was clean starts with people, which is looking back was probably the worst thing I did. Instead of spending time with the coaches that I'd worked with and going, look, sitting down and actually communicating with them properly and saying, look, this has not worked. This is where I want to get to. Help me get there. Instead of going, right, it's not worked, I'm going to go and see someone new.
Yeah.
Because you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And it takes 6 months or however long to actually get to a point where they see the history. Because everyone looks at your swing in a snapshot and goes, well, you got to do that.
Right. Every coach is going to have a different answer.
I mean, I'm not an idiot. I've been trying to do that, but it don't work.
Yes.
It just doesn't work. So, that's one thing that I do regret, not being able to have those conversations and working through it with them. But so in 2014, I was pretty much done. I remember being in Austria Challenge Tour. I'd hit 3 fairways. I don't know what I'd shot, but I'd shot a lot. I was not going to... After 4 holes, I'd missed the cut, basically. I was back in my room in tears, just like, this is it. I do not see a way out. And I thought I'll just keep playing till the end of the year. I worked with a guy called John Wallet, who actually helped me mentally a lot. We had a lot of conversations. He just kept me ticking over, not to give up, and just keep kind of trying to find little improvements here and there.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the questions is, when you're in that bad place, it's like, what's the self-talk like? I mean, what do you think got you out of that, or got you moving in the right direction at some point?
I mean, there's, we haven't got time to go into every relationship I've had, but there's been a lot of people that has helped me a lot over the years. Rob Goldup is one that has got me to this point, without a doubt. The last couple of years I've worked with him. He's a trainer, works with guys out on tour, but he's more than a trainer. He kind of gets it. He's invested in you, not just... So
you got a caring individual that's really invested in your career and you as a person, right?
The amount of times he's come over to the house for us to work out, and we've just sat talking for an hour and a half.
That's the kind of people you need on your team.
Yeah, and you just somebody who can, again, just nudge you in the right direction.
Sure. And
kind of formulate a plan. So he was massively influential, but I didn't start working again. I worked with him in 09, 10 for a couple of years, and then we started working again 2.5 years ago, I think now. But back to 14, John just helped me kind of ride that couple of months stretch out where I was horrific. I was averaging like 3 and 4 fairways around, and those fairways, the ones that were missed, were out of play, out of bounds, lost balls.
That's playing it off your back foot, hitting it off the ground.
That was trying anything. So I got to a point where that's where the driver off the deck became a play, because it was the only way I could keep it. I thought if I could keep it head high, it can't go out of trouble that much.
Yeah,
in the trouble that much. But so I went out to Kazakhstan, which was getting close to the end of the year, and shot like 73, which I was awful, but my short game was amazing. And my old caddy Rich sent me a message to say, send some swing videos to Rob Rock, who's Rocky. I've known for a long time.
Yeah.
So I sent him some videos that Thursday night. Time zone's like 4 hours difference. So I went to bed, woke up to this, thinking I'm going to get a couple of messages. And I looked at my video on my swing, and I thought, actually, it looks pretty good. I can't see what's going wrong here. Rocky came back with this, the largest text you've ever seen.
Oh my gosh!
With a few pictures and all mapped out. So I was suddenly, as a player, you get this instinct or whatever. You read it and you go, yeah, like that makes sense. And suddenly you've got this adrenaline and this desire. So I straight up to the golf course.
This is middle of the tournament.
This is Friday morning of Kazakhstan.
Oh my gosh!
So I go to the tournament, hit balls for I don't know, a couple of hours, hour and a half. Go and play. Hold my second shot on the first with like a wedge. I'm like, whoa, this is...
Thinking about what rock...
Yeah, so this whole new feeling.
Yeah.
Go on the next, hit like 7 iron to a foot. The third, I make birdie, and suddenly I'm just off. Shoot, I think I shot 63.
Oh my gosh.
Leading the tournament. And Kazakhstan's like the biggest tournament of the year, so suddenly if I have a good weekend, I've got my tour card back out of nowhere. But, over the weekend, it kind of struggled a little bit. Played okay, but dropped down. But suddenly now I've got some excitement about my game. So flew home, went up to see Rocky, spent a week with him, just hitting balls, almost back to the point where I was like with Mitchell, where I couldn't play. These feelings I had were so extreme, but I could see what it was doing and starting to cover the ball.
He wanted you to swing like him.
Yeah, I wish.
Awesome.
I wish. Yeah. Actually, we turned my swing thoughts as swing like my dad, because I had to... He won't thank me for this, but I had bend my elbows as much as I can. So it's literally putting my club and my hands at the top of my swing on my right
keep
shoulder.
It from being so stiff.
Yeah, just softening it up, and it just looked like a little dinosaur swing. So did that for a week. Went and I got an invite into the Dunhill, fortunately, and decided to take it up because I was unsure because I was not playing well, and won. I went up there just trying to make the cut, and Didn't even try to make the cut. I was trying to go up there to build a little bit of confidence.
Sure.
Because obviously the Dunhill is a pro-am, so it's 3 rounds automatic. So I thought, right, 3 rounds on good golf courses before Q school, build a bit of confidence, that'd be great. And just hit the ball. I was starting to hit the ball really well, so I thought, actually, I may be able to make the cut here. And went out. I know those courses well. It's a place I feel very comfortable. And I think it was Carnoustie that I was at first and shot the course record around Carnoustie.
Wow.
And from then, obviously, you're like, well, okay, I should make the cut from here. So I then went to Kings Barnes, played okay, but lost a bit of ground. And then went to St Andrews and shot 65 or 4 and had a 3-shot lead going into the last round. I was like, oh, where's this come from?
Wow.
But, you know, the one thing, it looks very different from the outside in, but for me, the way I approached that, and I was sort of comfortable with it. I knew that I still had it in me to win and to get into those positions, but obviously it was a bit of an unknown at that point because there has been quite a lot of scar tissue the few years leading up to that. So, yeah, you know, I went out there and ground it out, and the thing that was the most pleasing about that entire week is on Sunday I hit the ball great, and I just putted not very well.
Wow.
On the front 9 I missed quite a few short putts, and then on the back 9 I gave myself a little talking to and sort of formulated this plan. You know, I knew that, because at that point it was not about winning, it was about trying to get my card. And I thought, right, if I can birdie a couple of the holes that were gimme birdies, or not gimme birdies, but birdieable, and par the rest on this back 9, I'll get my card.
And that's what you were thinking about?
Yeah.
Like literally talking yourself in?
Yeah, so I think that was on the 9th. So I thought, right, you know, I need 2 birdies. If I can play the back 9 2 under, then that'll give me my card.
Because most sports psychologists would say you're out of the process and you're in the result. But I mean, I think a lot of good players think of that, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Not just because you're not over the shot thinking it. Yeah. It was just like, right,
that's like your big plan, and now you go and say, all right,
the first 9 holes I played well, but I'd missed a few short putts. I think I was 1 over maybe, or around maybe 1 over level, something like that. And I just made this plan, like, right, well, that's going to get me my card. I can do that. So, you know, you're not trying to win. You're just trying to do this. And I birdied 10 and 11 straight off the bat, which was like, right, I'm done. I've just got a par in. And I played great. And I birdied 16. I birdied 16 to take a 1-shot lead. It was fluctuating a little bit and made a good up and down on 17 and parred the last to win. So it was the most surreal moment of my career. I couldn't believe it. Like, Tommy Fleetwood had a 8-footer to tie me.
I was going to say the guys that were right behind you, Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, and Richie Ramsey.
Yeah, so
no slouches there. I mean,
no, not
awesome.
at all. But you know, that's when you're in that moment. Like, for me, it doesn't matter who you're up
against.
No,
exactly.
You're just
it
trying
shows
to do
you how
your
well
thing.
you played.
And yeah, I fully expected Tommy to hold it, and then I'm thinking, well, I've got second anyway. That's got my card.
Yeah,
I can't complain. And it missed, and you know, suddenly I've won, and it was like. It was weird, you know, 9 runners up, and then when I won, it wasn't easy, don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy at all, but that last hole was just so different to all the other experiences, and I won, so it was amazing. So you kind of think you're back, like, you know, everything's going well, you know, and then I went and played the final series around proper golf courses, like in Shenzhen, longer, tougher courses, and realised my ball striking, because the feelings were so extreme at the Dunhill, I started to lose it a little bit the following week and the weeks after that. And I realised there was still quite a bit of work to do. So that's kind of why I struggled the week or the year after, is just because there were such extreme feelings that it was very hard to play. What I should have done in hindsight is then again taken some time off and really got the
really grinded
down.
On the range.
Yeah.
And
so could go and play and not think about it, but I was having to do the work on a Tuesday and Wednesday at tournaments because I was playing.
Right.
You know, Rocky was still playing, or is still playing. So I'd end up doing a lot of work on a Wednesday afternoon, which is not good for competing.
And you're now working with a guy that's playing golf.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, right? He's not even really a teacher.
Well, it was funny. It was, and I never got drawn with him. I wanted to get drawn with him. I was like, that'd be great. Like 5 hours on the course with my coach would be amazing, but it never happened. But he helped me massively. It was just an unbelievable week, really. So it was really nice to actually get a win, just so that, if it was going to be over at that point, at least I had a win to go with, my runners up and
all that stuff you've been through.
Forward. But yeah, so I guess, moving on from that, like the following couple of years were frustrating. Did a year with Rocky and then thought, right, this isn't the right setup. It was the right information, absolutely, but so you're just not the right environment to do it.
You're starting to actually get to where you're understanding what you need to do.
Yeah.
Now you need a coach that's going to
So then I went to see Matt Belsham, who sort of teaches a similar thing, but it just didn't click, But this is where, like, your instinct and you kind of need a team to help you, because I felt like it wasn't working, but I stuck with it for the whole year because I was trying to do the right thing.
Sure.
Whereas in hindsight, I probably should have stopped a little sooner. But that's the way it goes. So I did that, and then really struggled, and then got kind of got to the point where I was done again and had enough. I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't playing good golf, not even in practice. I wasn't playing good in practice at all. And
so this is 2017-ish. Like James said, you were ready to quit.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, I didn't want to, but I thought, get to the Q school, go and see what happens. And then me and James started working.
September 17?
Yeah, I think it came down to the English Challenge, and we did a little bit of work and sort of instantly saw a change, and again got a little bit of excitement in my game. Saw that it was going, but at this time as well, at this point, like my short game and my putting and everything that had been so good had been eroded to where it was just average.
So it wasn't putting so much pressure on it.
Yeah, so it was not easy, but we've done some good work. Where I
was going to say, now you got the best short game coach I think in the world, and working the full swing. So
I have to say he's incredibly good on the short game.
Oh, yeah.
He can help anyone, which is not always easy. But he's helped me, just get the short game back on track and understand why the short game would go off when it did. And then the swing, we're kind of getting on track for sure. But I've done a lot of work on the body track, a swing catalyst body track, just working on the pressure trace. So we just figured out that the sequence was the underlying issue the whole way along, and getting the sequence right. So
go a little bit more in detail, if you don't mind, about what was when you say improper sequence versus what you're trying to do now, and what are some of the drills maybe you're working on.
So I've always kind of tried to target my swing in the gym a little bit. So I've got a lot stronger and did a lot more power and speed work in the gym, and sequence work in the gym with med balls, that kind of thing. Tried to carry that over, which really helped. And then also just on body track, basically what happened was about halfway back, when my body, or when my left arm's parallel on the way back, and you kind of generally in that area, you want the trace to start moving back towards the target, so you're creating that sequence and help it naturally shallow.
Right.
Mine never did. It just hung out way too long on the right.
On the backside.
So I'd get long, overturned, overswung, and I'd get a little bit of a tilt in my upper back. So then I'm like almost on the wrong side of the pendulum, and so I was stuck. So then I had to throw everything I had at it, which is why my right hip hiked up, to try and get the club underneath and get it shallower.
Gotcha.
To get it back on the ball. So I did all this, over the years, all this work trying to get into a shallower position and not get it as short and as steep. But I could never do it because I was drilling it so much that there was no sequence, there was no fluid movement, there was no dynamic movement in the swing.
You're working more on positions maybe than the actual dynamic motion of the body in the club.
And during that time, I've worked on being more dynamic, and went through spells like, right, I'm not going to go any positions, and I'm going to be completely dynamic and swing naturally. But I'd hit it horrific. Like it would go all kinds of directions, which is why I always came back to the positions, because it got me in a position to play.
Sure, I think there's a place for both of those trainings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but doing the or just sort of understanding the sequence this last year has really helped under pressure to kind of get away from any of that, and really get the pressure moving towards target earlier, which is.
So is that like a conscious movement
it
for you now, or
was.
is there some kind of drill that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've done various bits, but at the end, I mean, all the basic drills really,
like step drills.
Yeah, step drills, a few Happy Gilmore kind of things, and like I said, med ball throws, certainly loading into my right hip and exploding out a little bit more. All that, nothing outside the box really, just basic stuff, but understanding that's what I need to do.
Sure.
And that's got it to a reasonable point. And then I'm just starting to now understand, that the pivot was still not quite working right. The legs weren't quite working right. So I think my right leg was actually flexing on the way back.
Oh, wow.
So that's why there was still a little bit of a funky right hip move.
Yeah.
So getting with improving that improves the pivot. And then
Does that shorten your swing? It had to shorten. Pressure early left is going to probably keep you from overrunning the top.
Moving
right?
the pressure left early has definitely shortened it.
Yes.
But there's still some traits in there from being sort of the wrong side of the pendulum and being overswung, so my wrist angles get a bit excessive. So I've got to take a little bit of that out.
Has your ball flight changed now? Is it what's your stock
shot
shot
it's
now?
it's pretty neutral. But this, there's still not at the moment. I still don't have a consistent flight. It's much better.
Do you have a hard time hitting draws still, or you still kind of see that fade?
When I try and hit a draw, I always end up tilting and throwing my hands at it, which
right
is
side bend.
Yeah, which is what I want to get away from.
Sure.
So,
interesting.
We're still working on that, but the pressure trace has been massive for me. It's really helped
because you had some decent finishes there in it last year.
So
T5 in
I played
South Africa.
I played nice last year. Won a couple of times on Challenge Tour, which was massive for my confidence and to kind of feel like you're doing the right things. But also the fact that it showed me that my short game and putting was coming back, and I hold some really good putts down the stretch and to win the tournaments. So that was pretty big. And then it's been a continuous sort of rise this last year, and then went to South Africa. I was ill the first week in Mauritius. My wife gave me food poisoning. Oh but so that was a bit of a recovery week, and then I got to South Africa to 2 weeks that I really enjoyed and just played well, and it was fun to be in the mix, and my ball striking was pretty good, in fairness, down the stretch. There was still some couple of shots that could improve on down there, but everything held up, everything was good, and right in the mix, and 2 top 5s to start the season for this year on the European Tour has been nice. So I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a long way to go, but this last year has really helped improve from where I was, and feel like I'm pretty clear and comfortable with the information, what I've got to do now, and I can see a clear path ahead of me for improvement, and don't need to go searching down any more routes. It's just keep doing what we're doing, and with a bit of luck, it'll start to show in the results.
Well, that's so important. It sounds like you're in a much better place. Like you said, just clarity, right? I mean, it's just understanding what you're trying to do and the plan.
Yeah, just having a plan. And I think back to 07, 06, 7, 8, everything was so clear and the plan was there. And now I'm much more knowledgeable about the areas of my game, but I fully understand my swing and what causes what. So, and again, what was interesting and exciting this year was I was able to fix my swing when I was at tournaments. I'd have, if I had a bad round, I actually travelled with Body Track a little bit during the year, and just after the rounds went on, just reworked on the sequence a bit and played great the next day. So just
That's
learning
awesome.
that, just
nice
learning
plug
how
for
to,
Body Track there.
They've been good to me, but just trying to understand that and how to keep your game a little bit more consistent is obviously what we all want.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that, because I know it's not easy to relive, but I think for the listeners out there, it's a great life lesson to say, hey, never give up. What are some of the lessons you've learned along the way? I think are going to be valuable.
I mean, I'm at peace with it all, and I actually don't regret any of it. I wouldn't change any of it now, because
it's made you who you are, right?
It's made me who I am, and it's made me a better person, and I'm not as judging as I used to be. I kind of look at it from people's point of view. I think I do, because we all have different experiences that shape the direction we want to go.
That's right.
And, it all looks so simple through your own eyes until you need to have all the information to understand where someone's coming from. And if you don't, you can't be judging people really. So yes, I could have shortened those down spells a lot very easily. It's very easy to say that now, and people outside I think would be, I think a lot of people would say that you could have avoided a lot of that. But at the time, well, it's easy in hindsight.
Absolutely.
But get a good team around you, which I have now, and it will certainly lower those down spells.
That's it's such a good point to make for all the young the young players out there trying to make it on tour, or just college players that are thinking about turning professional, is checking all those boxes early. Yeah, getting your team in place, and then trusting that team and sticking with them, right?
And communicate.
Communicate
well and be honest. Like, it's all you can do really. Be honest with what's going on, and if you are, then everyone's on board, and hopefully you've got good people around you that are fully invested in you, not just wanting to be your coach and making money out of you. If you can get the right people there, then that's more important than any of it, really. Just to be on that journey with good people is a fun thing.
That's awesome. All right, you ready for a couple of rapid fire questions here before we close?
Yeah, hit me.
All right, so what is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? Like something that we wouldn't know about you. It could be anything. It's maybe one of your daily morning rituals, or
I've got to filter that though.
It's okay.
I'm a bit anal with food. I like to eat quite clean, so it's pretty boring. But I struggle over here actually.
Yeah, it's a little tougher in America. Yeah. So many bad things you can eat.
Yeah, I don't know if that really falls into.
What's your favorite food?
Well, that's completely against what I've just said, but ribs.
I
love ribs with some decent barbecue sauce.
A little protein. Well, you're in a good place in Charlotte.
A good steak as well, yeah. And one of my favourite places to go is South Africa, where you get just good steak, good food. It's a great place.
That's awesome. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, or like maybe have lost your focus temporarily, what do you do, and what do you ask yourself?
I get away from it.
So what does that look like?
Literally, don't touch a club. Just get away from golf, family time, work out, do whatever you want, but just get away from golf. I guess one of the things that I've learned so much that is, for me, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but when I'm away from golf, I need to be away from golf, and I can't play 6-7 weeks in a row. Mentally, I'm just done. I'm exhausted, and like after the end of the last season, I could not wait to put my clubs. I got off the plane and they didn't leave the flight bag until last week. So 4 weeks just stuck in the garage.
Wow.
Because I just can't do it. I need to wait until mentally I'm excited to practice and play again. And if I go early, then I just won't be in the right headspace. So rest and recovery, and just get away from the game. I think people tend to oversell the working hard aspect, and the recovery is probably as important.
That's a good point. Are there any books that you have recommended to friends, or gifted to friends, that sort of stick out? Are you a reader at all?
Golf books or any book?
Any book, like life. I mean, I prefer non-golf books.
My favourite book is Shantaram. I don't know if you ever read it. It's a phenomenal book about India and an escaped convict. But that's my all-time favourite book that I've only read it once, but I'm about ready to read it again.
Okay, that's a good sign. That's good then.
But yeah, I've read a lot of golf books as well, and sort of not self-help, but how to improve and become better in various areas.
Yeah. What are some of those favourites? I'd be curious to hear.
James showed me one the other week, which was Atomic Habits, which I think it's James Clear, I think maybe. But I really enjoyed that book. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
But it's in terms of trying to improve as a person and become better at any area, I think it's got some phenomenal things in there, and so I've quite enjoyed that.
What purchase of $150 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last year? Or it could even be more, but I mean, anything that you've bought that you can think of that?
I don't really buy much. I'm struggling on that one. It's probably something for my son, just to watch him smile and laugh. It's quite,
I was going to say,
entertaining.
you're.
I'm struggling.
So Ollie's got a 10-month-old
I got a 10-month-old
that's already walking and won't stop walking.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep him alive.
It's going to keep you in shape.
Yeah, there is that. I'm struggling.
That's okay.
Pass.
All right, the last one. This is the most important. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere and put anything on it, metaphorically speaking, to get the message out to millions or billions of people, what would it be? It could be a quote, could be a mantra, it could be whatever.
There's a great quote that Garrett Kramer says, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. My memories are horrendous. It's essentially live life. Stop worrying. Don't worry about too many things. Just live life. Do what you want to do. Enjoy it. Because
Life's short.
Life's short. And certainly as an athlete, you kind of get so caught up in your own world that suddenly 10 years have gone by and you've just been playing golf. And
sure.
For me, like, having a son this year has kind of opened my eyes a little bit to that.
Gives you some different perspective, right?
Certainly some different perspective. My golf doesn't really mean that much anymore. There's way more.
It's probably a good place for you to be, though, too, right? I mean, like you said, try a little less.
Yeah, it's a happy place.
You get better results.
Yeah, let go a little bit.
But don't be satisfied with 72.
No, yeah, exactly. 72 is no good anywhere, apart from US Open maybe. But yeah, not week to week.
So one more question. I lied. I just thought of something that would be interesting. Is if you weren't a professional golfer, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'd be a ski instructor.
There it is.
Absolutely, no question. I still want to be. I just want to be in the mountains all the time.
Yeah. Well, now that if you move to my town, you can. You're only 2 hours away.
Yeah, not far.
3 from the beach and 2 from the mountains.
Yeah, not a bad place.
Pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Ollie, thanks so much for your time, man. How can the listeners give you a wave or give you a thank you on social media? Anything you want to give out?
Yes, I'm on Twitter, Oliver_Wilson, and I think Instagram as well. I think it's the same, Oliver_Wilson. So, yeah, follow along. Send me some messages if you want. I'm
looking for big things. I'm excited to meet you, and then I'm excited to watch your career.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
The next step of greatness.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thanks, Jason.
What's up, everybody? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you jump off. First, big thank you to Oliver Wilson for coming on the show, sharing his story and some valuable insights to all you golfers out there, tour players and average golfers, I think, as well. So reach out to him and say thank you at Oliver_Wilson. You can also follow and reach me on the Twitter or Instagram at GolfGuruTV. Check out my website at www.golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. And if you have a question or comment about the show, feel free to reach out at golfgurushow@gmail.com or hit me up on the DM. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show are produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. Leave me an iTunes review. Let me know how I'm doing. Give me a rating. That would be awesome. And then as I leave you, as always, with the infamous Jim Rohn quote, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for listening.